My God, the hand movements of that student council president. Did you see that? He's like, I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. He's like, oh my God, what the fuck is that? Like, it looked like he was massaging Opie. Like, did anyone else look like he was doing that? He's like this. Like, seriously, I know I move my hands around sometimes like this, but he's like, I'm like, bro, what the fuck, man? Like, bro, what the fuck? So, this episode of Snafu Season 2, Ishiki was damn adorable in this episode. Like, I did not expect to like her so much, but after this episode, I'm quite a fan of her character. I mean, I thought she was going to kind of be a little bit of an annoying character, but to see how she was done in this episode, I truly appreciate her. I mean, she's very cute for one, and the chemistry between her and Hachiman is definitely there. Like, there's definitely some really good chemistry between these two, and I know for a fact after this episode, there's probably going to be some shippers for these two characters, especially after what this episode did. I mean, the way they had this chemistry going on to where how they were kind of both being foxy to each other, having this, like, slyness with each other, that was really cool. I like the dialogue, the way that was handled, and some of these expressions that the characters did was just so fabulous. And I know I expressed this a lot, and I know for the past reviews I have said this a lot, but it has to be pointed out. Those stunning movements of the characters, especially in this episode, like, one of the main scenes that really stood out to me when it came to some of the characters' movements was the scene to where the bag, like, you know, Hachiman was getting the bag from Ishiki. That scene right there had so much impact to this episode. Like, getting to see these two characters just communicate with each other, and they're not really talking. Like, the entire music, like, all the music just stops for that scene, and you just see these two characters talking, and it's not actually specifically just that scene. A lot of scenes in this episode, and previous episodes of Snafu, have had it to where the music just stops. Like, the music just stops in the background, and you see these very silent scenes to with the characters just communicating, talking, or just, you know, having, like, a very worried expression, or a contemplating expression where we're figuring out what is really going on. Like, you know, how Yukino was in this episode, when she was in the classroom, and you saw how she's putting on this, like, fake smile, like, she kept putting on this face, and it's very obvious she was just putting up a front to make it look like everything is a-okay, when it's clearly obvious to us that it's not okay. Even Hachiman understands, and Yui also understands that something is not good. Like, this is not good. They're just putting on an appearance. But the thing was, though, the way those scenes are done, especially with how the music just stops, and you see just this couple of stares between the characters, and you just see how the different camera angles are done. That's the true winner of this episode. Like, the true winner of this episode and the series is the camera angles, and the way some of these scenes also are done with how the music just stops. Like, you don't know how many times you hear anime and you always hear music constantly in the background, but you never realize when the music stops, it really makes these scenes so much better depending on how it's used. Like, it's very rare. It's very rare how it's done, and how good it could possibly be. Like, it's a rare feat for a company or a studio that's making some form of series to actually grasp the atmosphere of their characters properly, which is stunning to see how it's done in Snafu. Like, the way the music can just stop like that, and you get this, like, development with no dialogue, and you see how these characters are staring at each other. That's a very rare feat. It's a rare feat to see in an anime or manga, and, you know, anything. Like, when music stops in an anime or series, and you don't hear nothing, you just see that, it's rare, because usually you need that music to add life to those scenes. You need music to give it that oomph to it, to where people that are watching anime are like, holy shit, this is fucking good. But for some reason, Snafu really excels when it actually shuts off the music. And surprising. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the music of this series. The music adds its own atmosphere, but when the writers, I'm guessing, that's currently making this anime when they want you to really notice some of these characters' inner thoughts and what they're currently thinking at that moment, they love turning off the music to just make you see that this is very serious. There's something going on here, and these characters are having these very conflicting thoughts about each other, especially getting to see how Ishiki was with Hachiman in this episode when they were having their conversations and communicating with each other, and you see how, like, you know, like, are you hitting on me? No, and, you know, he gets rejected, and just the dialogue between them without words, especially with how he grabbed the bag, or, you know, how he realized in this episode that Ishiki's having very hard problems fitting in with the student council members because she seems very stuck up, or she seems like a person that just says yes, okay. That's kind of how she acts, and throughout majority of this episode, you see that she is the character that's like going along with whatever this other dude says, the other student council president from the other high school. She's going along with what he says, like, yep, okay, sure thing, and I mean, you can continuously say that, and I mean, she's doing that for she doesn't have to do much work. You can see from the way that is done, you can actually get a glimpse into her type of personality, which it's very obvious she puts on a mask to hide her personality. That's been very obvious since last week's episode and the week after that. But you can really dive into Ishiki's personality when you see how she is betrayed in this episode, like how she just agrees to everything, and she just does that to where she doesn't have to do extra work. It shows you that she at sometimes can be very lazy, and she's thinking that she can get away with these issues by just agreeing. And there's two ways people from the outside could actually take this attitude that Ishiki is really doing. And this is the two things I would think if I was in that situation on the outsider's perspective, and I was not Ishiki, like if I was Hachiman or someone else. I would think either A, this student council president is very, very fucking lazy. Like, very lazy and just does not want to do work. Or B, this student council president does not know what the fuck to do and is just saying yes to everything because they're confused to hell and back. They don't even know what the fuck they're doing there. So, those are the two different conclusions I would get, personally, if I was the helpers to that student council president. And you could see this conflicting issues appearing in this episode, how Hachiman is able to notice this, and he's like, oh, you're not really well liked, are you? And just to see that, it explains everything. It explains these issues that's going down in these different levels of the episode that you really won't see if it was just said, or like if you weren't paying attention. And once again, that is where this series shines. It's a really good gem with how it can progress characters, give development, characterization, and hints at their true personality just through wordless scenes that just use animation and art. And that's stunning. It is. It's so fucking amazing. It's amazing for me to see scenes like this in this episode of how I'm able to understand Ishiki's personality just from the animation and the way she carries herself with her dialogue. And as I have said, this series is one of the most realistic anime I have personally seen when it comes to rom-coms or situations like this in Slice of Life. The way the conversations are handled, it's mature. It's so fucking mature because people put on faces all the time, masks to hide their true personality, like Ishiki is doing, or how Hachimani kind of stays distant, or he's very highly self-aware, and all these different things that happen throughout this series. It's so realistic to see how it is done, and this series definitely shines so well with how it handles this. I know for a fact, I cannot believe, like, how more people don't know about the series. Like, this series is truly a breathtaking series, just to see how this was done. So, overall, besides my hand movements, this episode, very good episode. Like, I couldn't ask for more. As a watcher of Snafu Season 2, or Snafu in general, this episode was a lot better than I even envisioned. It's getting better and better by the week for me as a watcher of this series, because I cannot believe this series still manages to stun me with how it does this development with the characters, with this realistic conversations that actually real day-to-day life actually happens with people. And you know how Hachiman's group is kind of falling apart because they're trying to put up a mask in the face to try to hide the issues they had at hand. They're trying to sweep it under the rug, and eventually if you sweep things under the rug, it's going to come out and be a lot worse. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this week's episode of Snafu. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.